Rick Ross just played Big Meech like a pawn in what's being called a $120 million hustle. And now, 50 Cent is out here clowning the entire situation. But here's the wild twist: everyone on the block saw this scam forming long before it happened. Everyone except Big Meech himself. Ross came in smooth, dangling movie deals, grand projects, and Hollywood promises like bait on a hook. Then, once the cameras stopped flashing, he left Meech and his son standing out in the cold, looking broke and abandoned, while he continued living lavishly in sprawling mansions.
I feel bad for Lil Meech. I don't feel bad for no grown man on this planet. Like, I'm a grown man. Why the f I gotta feel bad for another grown man? Like, you a grown man too. What you asking for my sympathy for? You be alright.
Street insiders claimed they saw this play long before it hit the headlines. When Big Meech walked out of prison back in October, fans expected a true comeback story, the legend finally returning to reclaim his throne. Hopes were high that Meech would make major moves, transforming his street legacy into a legitimate empire. But out of nowhere, Rick Ross appeared, talking big and moving bigger. $120 million film deals, huge projects, and promises of a financial revolution. On paper, it seemed like Meech was finally about to eat off his own name, ready to cash in on the legacy he built brick by brick. But when the smoke cleared, the truth hit hard, nothing came through, and the empire Ross promised turned out to be nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Rick Ross delivered absolutely nothing. No projects, no payments, no follow-through. Instead, he used the Meech brand like a stage prop, flexing in his long-running rivalry against 50 Cent.
I don't think there's a bad guy.
No, yes it is. That Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No.
No? You think 50?
No.
Lil Meech?
No.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead to. And if he was a real friend to me.
The streets caught on fast. People weren't fooled for a second, calling out Ross' act as straight clout chasing from day one. Everyone in the game already knew who had been putting in the real work: 50 Cent. He was the one financing the BMF series, paying for Lil Meech's acting lessons, and opening doors that turned him into a legitimate star. Meanwhile, Ross brought nothing but headlines and empty hype, boosting his own image while giving nothing back. Still, Meech leaned closer to Ross, ignoring the one man who had actually kept his legacy alive. That decision sparked serious tension behind the scenes. Even Tony Yayo said it plain: 50 had been standing beside Lil Meech since the very beginning. No sugarcoating, no gimmicks. Now, word around the block says Meech is feeling the pressure. His frustrations are growing, his money's drying up, and reality's hitting hard. Ross never linked up out of loyalty or brotherhood. He only did it to jab at 50 Cent and stir the fire. The result? Meech doesn't look like a king anymore. He looks like a pawn in somebody else's feud. And that's when 50 Cent decided it was time to step in and flip the whole script. 50 Cent had officially had enough of staying silent. He fired back with a signature move from his troll playbook, claiming Rick Ross told Lil Meech to hand over his father's address so he could send some Wingstop wings.
I wasn't going to address this because I'm not trying to let nobody trick me off the streets. But I never folded, never told, never will. Death before the sign, always with me. So I'm doing this for my loved ones and the support of my friends.
But that jab wasn't just for laughs. It was layered with meaning. 50 was telling the world that Ross wasn't feeding the Meech legacy anything real, just scraps dressed up as loyalty. That humor hit hard because it carried truth. And then, things got even more personal. 50 Cent dropped bombshells about Lil Meech's alleged struggles behind the scenes. He claimed he personally had to step in, sending Meech to rehab after showing up to set intoxicated, throwing up during weapons training, and losing focus during filming. Then came the infamous story about the whippets found in Meech's truck, nitrous oxide canisters linked to reckless behavior. 50 joked that he had to Google what whippets even were, laughing at the absurdity while driving the point home. He was the grown man in the room keeping the production alive while others spiraled. Through all of it, 50 framed himself as the protector, the one holding Lil Meech's career together, while Ross and Big Meech, in his view, played reckless with reputation and reality. Yet despite everything, Lil Meech still chose to side with Ross, seen partying with him in clubs, smiling for the cameras. Now, the streets are roasting what's left of the once legendary BMF image. That alliance with Ross, built on talk and ego, crumbled faster than anyone expected. And when power star Michael Rainey Jr. stepped in, the energy shifted again. He spoke bluntly, saying he didn't feel sorry for either Lil Meech or Big Meech because, in his words, grown men should have seen this coming.
Rozay, the time has come. Meech on. February 13th, get your tickets right now. It's going down. We know Florida gonna be there. Miami gonna be there. The legend himself gonna be in the building, making history. Meech, who else coming?
The whole nation, Detroit, St. Louis, California, everybody. Atlanta, Georgia, ATL, stand up.
Woo! We're gonna make history. Get your tickets.
That clip from Michael Rainey Jr. spread across social media like wildfire. And once 50 Cent caught wind of it, he doubled down hard. He stood firmly behind Rainey's words, reinforcing the idea that the Meech camp was looking weak and manipulated. 50 didn't backtrack. He stamped it, framing the entire situation as another example of misplaced loyalty and bad judgment. And honestly, Rick Ross leaving people stranded isn't exactly a new plot twist in his story. Allegedly, this is something he's done before. Sources claim Ross once left members of his own entourage in Canada during a scuffle, letting them get jumped while he slipped away, only to come back later claiming it was all a test of strength. Cold-hearted, calculated, and consistent with the image many have painted of him, that's Ross' trademark move, according to industry insiders.
To do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big budget film. Which director? Shout out to my homie F. Gary Gray, Antoine Foucault, what's up? Tarantino, it's a lot of legends. This is gonna be big, I can feel it. I'm just talking.
Whack 100 even chimed in, calling Ross the real villain behind the curtain. He said Ross has never been a genuine ally to Big Meech, just a manipulator using his name as a pawn to take shots at 50 Cent. And Whack didn't mince words. He argued that if Ross truly cared about building something real, he would have handled business quietly, kept things private, and built in silence, not broadcasted for headlines. Instead, Ross made everything about himself, the deals, the attention, the shine. He paraded Meech's name around for clout, using the connection to elevate his own image. That alone told the entire story. Ross wasn't in it for Big Meech, he was in it for Ross. He knew the play long before it started, gassing Meech up with promises of stacked bread and empire building, while the only empire growing was his own fame. Rick Ross had quietly been turning Big Meech against 50 Cent, the very man who had actually helped rebuild his son's career. And when the smoke finally cleared, there was nothing left but false promises and empty headlines.
Who own your masters? Who own your masters? I buy your masters. You better shut up. I will.
You know, but when you take Lil Meech and you put him in acting school, you know, you take him from Detroit. I remember him rapping when he was rapping and nobody was helping him from what I seen. Cause I remember when Lil Meech was rapping.
Ross went silent on Meech, cutting communication and leaving him stranded just when the hype began to fade. Suddenly, the truth hit hard. Ross only ever pushes what fills his own pockets, and Meech was no longer part of that plan. Rumors even began swirling that Ross was the reason behind the cancellation of Meech's Welcome Home benefit event, an event fans thought 50 Cent had somehow sabotaged. But insiders say the real story was darker. Ross didn't want Meech to have a strong comeback or regain momentum. He wanted him sidelined, sitting in the background while Ross played the public hero online. That, many believe, was the ultimate betrayal, a calculated move to trade another man's legacy for clout instead of rewriting his legend. Meech walked straight into the moment where the streets stopped rocking with him. And things only got worse when he tried clapping back, calling 50 Cent an internet gangster, accusing him of hiding behind a phone and trolling for fame. But nobody bought it. The streets saw it for what it was, damage control, pure and simple. By that point, the jokes had already stuck. The memes, the commentary, the clowning, all of it painted Meech as outplayed and outmaneuvered. And when you look deeper into Ross' history, the pattern becomes crystal clear. A long trail of alliances built on self-interest and partnerships that always end with someone else paying the price.
Is there anything about Ross and his career that you have any respect for?
Oh, no, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. I never wanted to work with.
When you dig into Rick Ross' track record, a clear pattern emerges, one built on opportunism, not loyalty. Nearly every major alliance he's formed in hip-hop has ended the same way: chaos, confusion, and someone else holding the short end of the deal. From Maybach Music's early rise to his public clashes with former allies, Ross has shown a ruthless instinct for turning friendships into headlines. Take the MMG roster, for example. Whale, Meek Mill, Gunplay, all once stood under Ross' banner. Yet, over time, each began voicing frustration about contracts, missing money, or promises that never materialized. Ross would appear supportive in public, but behind the scenes, stories painted a different picture. One of control, ego, and manipulation.
I don't think there's a bad guy.
No, yes it is. That Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No.
No? You think 50?
No.
Lil Meech.
No.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead to. And if he was a real friend to Meech, unless he was looking to get 50 out the way, he would have dealt with Meech in the shadows, because he knows me and this dude who is going to react if he sees me dealing with this dude that he has business with. And there was a lot of business left to be done, right? Rick Ross, bro, could have done whatever he was going to do in the shadows if he really honored and respected Meech. Trust me, Meech wished none of this.
Even Meek, once considered Ross' right-hand man, quietly distanced himself after realizing the empire wasn't built for everyone to win equally. Now, that same formula seems to have played out again with Big Meech. The $120 million project Ross hyped turned into smoke and mirrors, while he walked away with another wave of publicity. And it's not lost on the culture that every time Ross' name fades from the spotlight, he finds someone new to align with, someone who still holds weight in the streets. Meanwhile, 50 Cent has flipped the script entirely, transforming real-life stories into billion-dollar television moments. That's the difference. While Ross keeps chasing validation through controversy, 50 builds empires off strategy. The streets see it, the fans see it, and even the industry insiders are admitting Ross might be playing checkers while 50 is running chess. At this point, the question hanging in the air is simple. How many more people will Ross pull into his orbit before they too realize the game? Because if history has proven anything, it's that anyone who stands beside him eventually learns the same lesson. Loyalty is temporary, but clout is forever. The pattern is undeniable. Rick Ross' entire playbook runs on borrowed legacies.
A guy, I don't think there's a bad guy.
No, yes it is. That Vlad, let's talk about it.
I think Meech is the one that made a mistake.
No.
No? You think 50?
No.
Lil Meech.
No.
Who am I forgetting now?
Rick Ross knew perfectly damn well what he was doing and what that would lead to. And if he was a real friend to me.
BMF track had Big Meech believing Ross was standing beside him like family. But what if that loyalty was nothing more than a setup? What if Ross never wanted to honor the real Big Meech, but to become him in the eyes of the culture? When you really think about it, it fits perfectly. Ross has built his entire career off names and stories that weren't his to begin with. It's all documented. His whole persona came straight from the real Rick Ross, the street legend who was locked away while Ross borrowed his name, image, and story to create a multi-million-dollar brand. When the real Rick Ross got out, he confronted him, even took him to court trying to reclaim what was his. Ross didn't flinch. He doubled down, profiting even harder off the myth he built. Then he did it again with Larry Hoover, using the name of another incarcerated icon, dropping it in songs, interviews, and visuals while stacking clout off the reputation. Same play, different legend. Now, with Big Meech, it's starting to look like history is repeating itself. Another borrowed name, another manipulated legacy, another man left in the shadow while Ross shines under borrowed light. It paints a clear picture. Rick Ross has been eating off other people's stories for years, turning real pain into profit. And when the smoke clears, he's the only one walking away with the wins. Truthfully, 50 Cent called it early. He's been saying from day one that Ross never earned respect as a man, only as a marketer. And of course, the online community hasn't held back either. One viral comment read, "Rick Ross is a fraud, period." Another said, "Ross messed up the whole legacy trying to chase clout." The people have spoken. But the bigger question remains, is Rick Ross just playing the game, or did he really leave Big Meech high and dry? Was Meech's loyalty misplaced, or was he just outplayed in a much bigger hustle? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next deep dive. Check out the next video on the end screen. This story is far from over.